Shalom and welcome to the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Well, we're finally down to our last two verses in chapter 9, this long chapter of God's judgment coming against his people. We saw in the previous couple verses that the Lord really desires for his people to know him in an intimate way and to find their boast in understanding who he is and what his character is all about. These last two verses, which would be 9:24, which in your English Bible would be 9:25, and then our next verse after that, seem almost to be a little bit detached. What do they have to do with the previous context? But other commentators feel like this is sort of a final resume, a final summary of what God would actually wanted to see in his people. He wanted to see hearts that were really open to him. So it's a little bit different, but let's go ahead and read verse 24 in Hebrew as we get started. Then next week or our next time around, we'll look at verse 25 to finish the chapter. Hine yamim ba'im na'um Adonai, ufakadti al kol mul be'orla. It comments hatuf there, so it's orla. Behold, we've seen this the structure before. So behold or look, behold, days. These are plural of yom. Looks like the plural of seas as well, like an ocean, but this is actually the plural of yom with an o, but yamim. Ba'im, and this is a participle, masculine plural participle, and it's a cal from our verb bo, ba, in this case with the im ending on it because it's a masculine plural participle. So for a hollow verb like that, behold, days are coming, an oracle of Yahweh, says the Lord, declares the Lord. And then we're going to find an u, this is just a conjunctive vav, but it's attached to a perfect. So this is actually going to be a perfect, but a perfect consecutive, which is not unusual. When you find this formula, the days are coming, you're looking towards something in the future, and it's pretty common to find this kind of a structure here. So even though it's a perfect, it's throwing us in the future. This T ending on it's first common singular, and we have a cal from our verb pakad, and this is this very universal verb that means to visit, to come, to attend to something. Frequently when it's used with pakad, means to visit upon, and it has the sense of punish. God is interested in what is going on, and he is going to come and attend to it and deal with it. That's the sense that we have here. So most of our translations will go in the direction of punish. The days are coming, and we could almost translate this as a when, because it's describing what's going to happen in these coming days. The days are coming, and or when I will punish, I will visit upon, so I will punish all. Now, mul, what is this? Well, this is a word, it's a passive participle, and it's a cal, and it's from a verb mul, just like it's written there, which means to circumcise. So the passive participle in the cal, because it's a hollow verb, has this unusual form here for the passive participle. It's almost like an adjective here. So this means circumcised. Now this gets really interesting. Upon all circumcised in. And then orla, this is a word which means foreskin, or which would usually be the condition of uncircumcised. So what we have here is all circumcised in foreskin. Usually those two things don't go together. Now, how do you understand this? Well, that's what we'll see in some of the translations. So it's easy to analyze each of the words. It's a little bit harder to figure out the exact meaning of what's going to happen. But when you see verse 24, and especially with verse 25, I think the general idea will be very, very clear. So nothing that's too complicated here in terms of the lexical forms and the grammatical forms, but a little bit more complicated in understanding the meaning. So let's look at a number of passages this time. A number of translations. First of all, probably one of the most literal, we'll take the Tanakh, Jewish publication, 1985. Lo, days are coming, declares the Lord, when I will take note, I will visit upon. I will take note of everyone. I find that a little bit weak. I think visit upon is actually a lot stronger. I will take note of everyone circumcised in the foreskin. So they're translating this ba as the place where circumcision takes place. Well, obviously, that's where circumcision does take place, in the foreskin. So is that what the meaning of the verb is, of this phrase is here? Perhaps. Okay, let's look at, try a different translation. The New King James, I think the Old King James went in this direction as well. Behold, the days are coming, says the Lord, that I will punish, so that's probably a better translation for visit upon, all who are circumcised with the uncircumcised. So they're translating this bait as the equivalent of et, for instance, the preposition with, or im, which is sometimes like that. They're taking it sort of in that same. And or foreskin here, or uncircumcised, they're saying these are the uncircumcised people. So this is circumcised people along with uncircumcised people. Well, I guess it's a possibility, but it seems like an unusual use of bait right here. This one was putting the particular place of where the circumcision would take place. This one seems to be a different group of people, two groups put together. Okay, well, let's look at another possibility. ESV, behold, the days are coming, declares the Lord, and I will punish all those who are uncircumcised in the flesh, in the foreskin. But they take it as they're adding this word merely, which is not in the text, but they're taking it from the context, both of what's going on perhaps in this verse and in the following verse, which we'll see next time. Because there seems to be a contrast between physical circumcision and spiritual circumcision. In other words, a proper heart. Actually, if you go back to Jeremiah chapter 4, you will find Jeremiah calling the people to, I'm sorry here. We go 4:4. Jeremiah calling the people to circumcise their own hearts. So they were already circumcised in the flesh, but their hearts needed to be circumcised. So maybe this is an echo of what's going on there. So ESV translators have added the word merely in the flesh. So they're circumcised in the foreskin, but only in the foreskin and not in the heart. So that's reading a little bit into it, but that might be the right interpretation of it there. And one more, the Christian Standard Bible, which I think gets it actually pretty well. Look, the days are coming, this is the Lord's declaration, when I will punish all the circumcised yet uncircumcised. So this is almost like circumcised in foreskin, circumcised and yet uncircumcised. Or I think Kyle and Delich in their commentary called it an oxymoron. The circumcised hyphen uncircumcised, because you're circumcised one way, but you're not circumcised the other way. So that's another way of doing it. So it picks up this sort of merely idea, but is underlining it a little more sharply here. In any case, the Lord's going to come back to this in the following verse, the last verse of this chapter, and he's going to try and explain this a little bit more for us. So, well, check back with us soon as we finish up chapter 9 in the weekend edition of the Daily Dose of Hebrew. Shalom.